Pokemon Legends ZA has officially released worldwide, and now that it's been a week, I can finally give my thoughts on all the brand new Mega Pokemon. There's a total of 26 brand new Mega Pokemon in this game, and with so many Megas going to previously underpowered Pokemon, there's a lot to be said. As of right now, we only know the base stats, typings, and the general movesets for these Megas, but we have no clue on what their abilities might be. Of course, I'd never pass up on an opportunity to make some good old-fashioned tier slop content, so we move. For this ranking, I'm only going to be going off of what we know and only assume abilities if it's absolutely obvious, like in one particular case we'll be discussing later in the video. And man, without even knowing the abilities, these Pokemon, yeah, we got a lot to fear. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into it. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, check out the Patreon, become a member, hype the video. Wow, there's a lot of things to plug nowadays. I'm sorry you guys have to deal with this as viewers. Still gotta do them though. The Mega Malamar propaganda has finally left my brain, and I can finally speak freely on the crimes and atrocities committed by this monster. But rather than doing that, I'm just going to clown on its stats. I genuinely have no clue what's going on here. The stats on Mega Malamar don't look like they belong on a Mega. They look like the sort of stats you would see on a mid-tier Gen 5 Pokemon. Mega Malamar has a total of 2 stats above 100, and they're its 102 base attack and 120 base special defense. Are the other stats acceptable? I mean, yeah, I guess so. 86 HP, 88 defense, and 98 special attack with 88 speed isn't awful, but the fact of the matter is that this Pokemon is neither a defensive tank, nor does it have any offensive stat worth running as your team's sole Mega. Why would I ever Mega Evolve a Pokemon to hit as hard as low kicks? And a Dark Psychic typing isn't bad, but it does leave it super weak to bug moves, like to the point that a single U-turn is going to one-shot your Mega Malamar. Here's the thing. Does Mega Malamar have stats unbefitting of the Mega title? Yeah, but it's pretty clear that one of two things is going to happen when it gets an ability. It's either going to keep Contrary so it can spam Superpower in close combat to buff itself instead of having the stats lowered, or it's going to set Trickermount Switch in. I said what I said. This channel is partnered with Gamersubs. If you want to support my work and get great tasting drinks, you can order Gamersubs through my link in the description down below or with code Moxie boosted at checkout for 10% off. Gamersubs is a caffeinated product that I recommend only to my 18+ viewers, but my link will send you to their caffeine-free product section just in case. Every product purchased through my link supports my channel financially, so I'd really appreciate the support. Now back to the video. Now that we have a tier with more than one Pokemon in it, I think now's the time to mention that I didn't really bother to order these Pokemon within the tiers based on strength, because without abilities it's kind of difficult to call out, but they are sort of kind of loosely ordered. Anyways. My disappointment is immeasurable, my day is completely ruined. I was so excited for Mega Victory Bell. I legitimately hoped that this thing would have defensive stats above 100 at the expense of its speed, but no. It stays 70 speed, and it was turned into a slightly stronger mixed attacker. But I straight up don't believe that they added 100 points to Victory Bell's base stats. I know that the math disagrees with me, but the vibes are off. This isn't a level of bulk or power worth using your Mega slot for. Yet again, we have a Pokemon that could be saved by its ability. There's a few options here that could make it worth running. The two big ones are Chlorophyll, making this thing actually fast enough to consider running as the bulkiest and strongest Sleep Powder spammer, or Super Sweet Syrup, which has good synergy with other inaccurate move-using Pokemon, just to guarantee that Sleep Powder connects after the evasion decrease. For now though, it's still super unimpressive. Okay, the general theme of these first few Pokemon is that they're just not worth running as your Mega Pokemon, but Mega Clefable takes this point and really drives it home with the fact that Togekiss already exists. Look at these two Pokemon side by side. They're both fairy flying types with access to Follow Me redirection, their bulk is very similar, but Togekiss is 10 points faster. Does Clefable hit harder with a base 135 special attack stat? Yes. But Togekiss can actually hold an item, like a Life Orb or a Fairy Feather, and when these two do the exact same thing but one requires you to waste your Mega resource, it's kinda like choosing to buy one of those $1,000 HDMI cables. You don't really need to be spending all that much, dude, you're just like being cavalier with your finances. Oh, I mean, did Pyroar need a Mega? Frankly, yeah, but I don't know who wanted it. Like, I'm not even sure the Pokemon Company wanted it. I'm convinced Lysander within lore just paid someone off to make this guy for him so his Mega and him could share a matching hairstyle. These are once again not the stats of a Mega Pokemon. 126 speed is something I can get on plenty of other Pokemon these days. 129 special attack isn't even that high anymore, and it's not like base Pyro stats were so low that they couldn't just put any more into the special attack stat. Pokemon is just obsessed with making physical Pyro work for some reason. Because what do you mean you buffed its attack from 68 to 88? What's the point of that? Who wanted that? You know what that makes me think? It makes me legitimately believe that They're giving this thing Moxie as its ability. Like, again, I don't know, that would be hilarious. Base Scrafty's biggest flaw is its dark fighting typing alongside with its mediocre attack stat. This Mega form fixes one of those issues. Mega Scrafty gets a 40-point buff to its attack stat alongside 20 points in both defenses, which leaves it with 135 in both. It also gets a minor speed increase to 68, which isn't nothing, but certainly not what it needed for better viability. In Legend ZA, Scrafty also gained access to the move Parting Shot, which, when you take into account the fact that it has access to Fake Out and Intimidate before Mega Evolving, has led to certain people calling it Mega Incineroar. To which I have to say, pump the brakes, buddy. Calling this thing Mega Incineroar implies that it can actually tank a Moonblast, which it certainly cannot. Mega Scrafty effectively just becomes what Scrafty needed to be on the fringe of viability in a Power Crept Gen 9 metagame. Only thing is, it requires the Mega slot, where similar Pokemon would not, including Incineroar himself. This Mega form does however make Dragon Dance sets a little bit more viable in singles now that it hits harder and is faster, but overall this is just an okay Mega Pokemon. Why is it slower? Why did we take the cool fast horse bug that gets speed boosts and make it an absolute unit? I mean, it's not all that bad. There are worse defensive typings than Bug Poison, and the fact that this thing can speed boost before Mega Evolving means that it could reasonably Swords Dance and sweep with the buffed stats after Mega Evolving on turn 2 or 3. That 140 attack stat is beefy, only getting out-beefed by that 149 defense stat, but it's all undercut by that 60 HP. It's not going to be as bulky as the defenses make it look when it doesn't have the HP to back it up. In doubles, it's Intimidate weak, and in singles, it's Stealth Rock weak. This is definitely a Mon to keep an eye on, but as of right now, we just have our new potential Mon. Hopefully it gets a great ability. Base Drampa is a prime example of why having high offensive stats just isn't enough to make a Pokemon viable. Drampa has been a mid-tier Pokemon since Generation 7, but its Mega form does do it a lot of favors. Buffing those defenses to 110 and 116 makes it far bulkier and easier to tank hits with, but obviously its standout feature is that base 160 special attack stat. I don't care if Hyper Voice can't be super effective on anything, I don't want to switch in on that. We're beginning to approach Life Orb Blood Moon Ursaluna levels of damage on this move. Only this thing's also got access to Draco Meteor on top of that. It's also still slow enough to work under Trick Room with it being slower than base Ursaluna, which is effectively the cutoff point for being a strong Trick Room user in modern formats. And when you pair it with Calm Mind, just forget about it. If Mega Drampa gets a halfway decent ability, it's going to be a beast. Something, if I had a nickel for every slow dragon that got a Mega. Look, Dragalge may have been one of the most disappointing Pokemon to use competitively. On paper, a Dragon-type special attacker with access to Adaptability Draco Meteor should be incredible, but it's not if it only has 97 base special attack. Mega Dragalge cranks that special attack stat up to a respectable 132, and even makes its special defense an absurd 163. If it keeps access to adaptability, Mega Dragalge should be a very threatening special attacker. It does hit a little less hard than the Life Orb variant of the base form, but that added bulk makes it a much safer Pokemon to play and a solid Trick Room abuser. Very middle of the pack. Look, I know base Emboar isn't all that competitively, but Reckless Life Orb Flare Blitz is one of the hardest hitting moves in the game. It's just got too many boosts to ignore. That's why Mega Emboar was always going to be a risk. Sacrificing that item slot and possibly its best ability for stat buffs is going to be a gamble. That being said, this isn't too bad. The defense goes up from 65 to a more respectable 75, which would be low if it weren't for the fact that this thing has base 110 HP. And the special defense going up to 110 from 65 is actually pretty huge. This thing's going to be taking stab psychic moves now. The modest buff to its 75 speed isn't going to matter a ton, but it does make max speed sets a little bit more viable, since it can outpace the base 85 Pokemon like Archaldon and Rillaboom depending on their investment. And if it manages to keep Reckless or gets an even better ability, it should be a halfway decent Pokemon. Mega Hawlucha's whole viability is resting on what ability they end up giving this thing, because at face value, this isn't super impressive. 118 isn't a bad speed tier at all, but a lot of people were hoping that Mega Hawlucha would be just a little bit faster, considering just how fast modern Pokemon get. A higher speed tier would mean that Mega Hawlucha wouldn't have to worry about losing access to Unburdened sets from its base form. It does, however, get a massive buff to its bulk with that 100 defense and 93 special defense on what used to be 75 and 63 respectively. And 137 attack means that close combat is going to hurt. For now, there's nothing really pulling anyone towards using this thing apart from how sick the design is. As a streamer, I'm familiar with running suboptimal Pokemon for the sake of getting clicks and attention. Frankly, this job is just acting like a clown and doing silly dances until enough people start paying attention and you get paid. So I kinda sympathize with Canary on her Mega choice. That being said, Mega Electros isn't really cutting in the big leagues, but it's certainly not a bad Pokemon. Seeing as Mega Electros begins with a 515 base stat total, it does make sense that its Mega getting over 600 BST would make it look like a pseudo-legendary on paper. I really don't see this thing losing Levitate, as it having effectively no weaknesses is its whole identity. But I mean, there's not much to say other than it just hits a little harder and becomes a little bulkier. The special bulk is pretty marginal though, with it not really making up for the lost access to Assault Vest, but Volt switching off of 135 base special attack is substantially better than the previous 105, and 145 base attack Wild Charge is just a little stronger than Iron Hands. That being said, this is the most middle of the pack Mega we have in the bunch. Any negative comments I would have regarding Mega Phalanx's stat spread are completely nullified by the fact that this thing's a freaking Gundam made out of minions. Just like Electros, all the stats went into the right place for Mega Phalanx to work. The previous 75 base speed got buffed to 100, meaning that Adamant Mega Phalanx can now outspeed Calyrex Shadow Rider after using no retreat. Frankly, that's all bro needed. The Omni boost on top of its shiny new 135 attack and 135 defense is just icing on top. And if it keeps Defiant after Mega evolving the boost from Intimidates, we've actually got quite the solid Mega Pokemon here, but only after it uses no retreat to buff. If it doesn't no retreat, this thing's pretty mid. I don't care how high that defense stat is, bro, you're not taking a Brave Bird from anything. Mega Chestnut simply doubles down on its bulk and attack. That 172 defense and 115 special defense, all sitting on top of 88 HP, is actually really respectable. But Grass Fighting is one of the worst defensive typings that you could end up with. The only reason Chestnut saw play in Gen 9 was because of its ability Bulletproof, blocking Shadow Ball and Sludge Bomb in a metagame where the best Pokemon teams were all rocking that. Also, it could just change its typing outright, which Mega Chestnut supposedly won't be able to do in Pokemon Champions. This thing is bound to be relegated to being a mid-tier body press spammer, but I can also see it being a solid pick in singles at least. It has access to Leech Seed and everything, but it's probably not going to do super well in VGC. Words cannot express just how happy I was to see Mega Frostlass get a buff to its speed. Words also cannot express just how disappointed I was to see that that buff was just to 120 when we have Fluttermane casually floating around with base 135 and access to a Focus Sash. I'm not super certain just how strong Mega Frostlass will end up being, but for all I know, it could have access to like Snow Warning or Speed Boost or something. But what I do know right now is that I don't want to be whatever is having to switch in on 140 base special attack Blizzard. On top of that, the Ghost typing means it's unflinchable. It's bound to be a solid mid-tier overall without an ability, but it has potential to be a great Pokemon once we know what it gets. What do you do when Corviknight shows up and starts stepping on your toes? That's right, you grow bigger toes. In Generation 8, Skarmory started collecting unemployment checks because Corviknight did everything it did, just a bit better. Does Skarmory have higher defense? Yes, but with such a low HP stat, Corviknight had comparable defenses alongside an ability that prevented Pokemon from lowering its stats, making it not only a solid hazard setter in singles, but also a great setup Pokemon in doubles. Mega Skarmory solves this issue by allowing Skarmory to completely shift its role in a match with a huge 140 attack stat and base 110 speed. It sacrifices 30 defense to do this, but it does get a buffed special defense. Mega Skarmory isn't exactly a glass cannon because by no means is it frail, and the fact that this thing not only gets Tailwind but also Swords Dance means it's got huge potential to be a threat in competitive matches. Maybe I'm overrating Mega Meganium by putting it at the bottom of B tier, but I just have faith in this thing for some reason. This thing is fat. It's got 80 HP and 115 in both defense stats, but what really sells me on it is the fact that it's got that 143 special attack stat and even becomes a fairy type with access to Dazzling Gleam, and who knows, maybe it gets Moonblast down the road. As of right now, no, it doesn't have Calm Mind, but if this thing gets any kind of special attack boosting setup, it's gonna be a threat. I'm also still on Team Triage. If it gets that ability, it's gonna have priority on all of its healing moves, so it's gonna be a fat nuisance like me at a cookout. Also, it can Leech Seed spam. Is it super weak to poison moves? Yeah, but we can play around that, right? I don't know, I just got faith in it. Pretend this is in C tier if you don't. Genuinely, I'm kind of upset with Game Freak for making me actually care about Barbaracle. I never thought the day would come. But Mega Barbaracle takes a Pokemon with one of the most unfortunate typings in the game with Water Rock and turns it into a Rock Fighting type with access to Shell Smash. Base Barbarical only had 68 speed and 105 attack, so even after that Shell Smash, it wasn't stupidly strong. But Mega Barb grants this thing 88 speed and a massive 140 attack stat. If you allow this thing to set up a single Shell Smash, you gotta forfeit, because those rock slides are gonna feel like getting hit by a truck. It's also no longer lacking physical or special bulk with 130 defense and 106 special defense, and on top of everything, it now has stab on close combat. Take my money now, I need this strange obelisk on my team. He does not look like a toilet seat, he looks like a giant Totodile mascot, and I love him. In all seriousness, Mega Feraligatr is actually a huge buff on top of Base Gator. It comes down to just two things: that massive attack buff to 160 and the fact that it gains the Dragon typing. Water Dragon is already one of the best typings in the game, with it only being weak to Dragon and Fairy type attacks, and this thing maintains access to both Swords Dance and Dragon Dance, so now Stab, Dragon Claw, and Outrage are going to be hitting pretty hard. It's going to be a menace in singles, and its doubles viability shouldn't stray too far behind. Could a speed buff have been good to make Dragon Dance sets even better? Yeah, but you better thank your lucky stars he isn't getting slower from lugging around that giant helmet. How many forms does this thing need? Is Ash Greninja not just a Mega form? Technically no, the giant fidget spinner more than makes up for the fact that this is just kind of blatant favoritism. Mega Greninja is yet another Pokemon that just has all of its stat buffs in the correct places. With its speed being buffed to 142, allowing it to speed tie with Dragapult, but on top of that, the buff to its attack and special attack make it one of the most threatening setup sweepers in the game. Greninja already had access to Swords Dance, but it now having access to Nasty Plot on top of that means that it can double its special attacks and deal respectable damage with its stabs, coverage moves, and even Water Shuriken, which, mind you, is a priority move. Before you can even move, you're going to get blasted 2 to 5 times by the squirt gun that ends your life. There's no shot this thing doesn't see heavy usage in at least singles. Mega Dragonite is quite frankly a little disappointing to me as the resident VGC player. I would have liked its attack stat to go up rather than down so my extreme speeds could be more potent. That being said, this thing is still really strong. The special attack stat skyrocketing to 145 means that Hurricane, Draco Meteor, and any coverage move off this thing is gonna sting. And hitting 100 base speed means that it's now outspeeding the likes of Urshifu and speed tying with Charizard, Chi-Yu, and other base 100s. But I'd argue that the thing that puts this guy over the top is its absurd bulk. 91 HP with 115 defense and 125 special defense on top of everything else here means it's going to be sponging hits from most Pokemon even without loads of investment into its bulk. It's simply a stat monster. It's even got multi-scale before Mega Evolving, meaning that it can set up and sweep more easily before changing forms. And if they give this thing any solid ability, it's just over for everyone. This guy's definitely top of B tier, if not the bottom of A tier. Okay, it's at this point you gotta lock into the video because things are about to get kind of crazy. 175 special attack? Like, who approved of this? You know Deoxys attack has 180 at the expense of falling over to the sound of another Pokemon getting hit, right? Meanwhile, Mega Chandelure gets a similar special attack stat with a decent speed tier and usable bulk? No shot, dude. And as a ghost type, it's not able to be faked out. Bear in mind that not only could this Pokemon function with Tailwind, but Chandelure also gets access to Trick Room itself. You're literally just putting a grenade on the table and asking the opponent not to mind it sitting there. No, dude, I want to get rid of the grenade as soon as possible. And it's going to get an ability on top of everything, and that ability might be Shadow Tag because they meant to give it to it back in Gen 5. Yeah, dude, I'm actually kind of scared right now. The game's been out for a week and you're well into this video revealing new Mega Pokemon. If I get a single comment about spoilers, I'm gonna flip. Whether this Pokemon will be legal in VGC or not is still up in the air. I mean, Ash Greninja wasn't legal for some reason, but we're gonna talk about Mega Floette anyways. Mega Floette boasts the pure fairy type with a 155 special attack stat, 148 special defense, and even hits a 102 speed tier, meaning it speed ties with Garchomp. But its major selling point is its signature move, Light of Ruin. Light of Ruin is a 140 base power fairy type attack that, rather than requiring a turn to recharge or being unusable for a turn like Blood Moon or Hyper Beam, deals recoil damage to Floette equivalent to 50% of the damage it dealt. In short, this move is broken. You just get a giant laser cannon that deletes any Pokemon in front of you. This is at the expense of Floette Eternal basically having zero coverage options and not being able to run an item, but it's still so good, dude. We just gotta wait to see if it gets an ability other than Flower Veil. I don't care what you say, this thing is my favorite Mega out of the new batch. Do you have any idea how tough you have to be to say, okay, I'll Mega Evolve, and then just become 7'7"? It's insane. Alright, so you know how we said we didn't know any of the abilities on these Pokemon? Well, I kinda lied, because we do know one. Probably. So as you all know, there are no abilities in Pokemon Legends ZA. To make up for this, the Mega Pokemon that were supposed to have the abilities Pure Power and Huge Power, which double the user's attack stat, instead were given an extra 40 points to their attack stat, on top of the 100 points that they get from Mega Evolving like usual. The only one of these new Megas to have a 140 point stat buff is Mega Starmie, who has suspiciously high attack. So we're like 99% sure Mega Starmie is actually a Pokemon with 100 attack and the ability Huge Power. Why? I don't know, but this thing's a freak. It's got solid bulk, 120 base speed, and even 130 special attack, so mixed sets are an option as well. On top of that, it's got a stupidly high attack stat, and they even gave it bulk up and flip turn. Yeah, no, put the freaky starfish in A tier.
Who the hell do you think I am?
Excadrill is already one of the most seasoned competitive Pokemon veterans of all time, with it being a great spinner in singles and a Sandrush sweeper in doubles. Mega Excadrill simply takes everything great about Excadrill and cranks it up to 10, with it having a massive 165 base attack stat and even 103 base speed. That is very much on purpose. They said Garchomp is unemployed now. Its bulk even improves with a 100 base defense stat now. Whether or not this thing will keep Sandrush is a question for later, but the fact of the matter is, if this thing gets any Swords Dances up, you just lose.
My drill is the drill that creates the heavens!
If I ran the Pokemon Company, I would want to have a very important conversation with whoever designed Mega Delphox's stats. Yeah, man, let's just give the Fire Psychic Expanding Force spammer 134 speed and 159 special attack. Come on. I mean, I already have to deal with Armarouge, so why do I have to deal with his mom now? Like, even before any abilities get revealed on this thing, we already know it's gonna be busted. Some people are claiming that it should get, like, Speed Boost or Psychic Surge, but frankly, I hope it gets Levitate at this point, so I don't even have to think about Expanding Force. Nope, no Terrain for you, no Iron Ball for you, you gotta hold that Delphoxite and live with your decisions. It's just, like, so annoying. Oh yeah, let me switch in my Steel type to tank the Psychic move. Oh no, okay, cool, they used Heat Wave. Alright, good game, shake my hand. There's only one Pokemon in this tier. Come on, guys, say it with me. It's the snake with too many forms.
Hey, yo, that snake got too many forms.
Mega Zygarde was kind of a foregone conclusion when we had the game revealed, but, what do you mean it's got 216 special attack? Okay, cool, we finally get to harness the unbridled power of the sun in Pokemon. If you're wondering just how strong this thing is, they only gave Mega Zygarde a 70-point increase because they knew that this was probably a bad idea. Despite that, they still decided to give Zygarde a fourth signature move. Behold, Nihilite, a 200 base power dragon move that ignores any stat changes and also hits fairies for some reason. Frankly, the only thing scarier than this thing is the fact that I'm certain it's getting Power Crept next generation. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It'd mean the world to me. If you want to support my channel further, you should check out my Patreon page or become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button below the video. This gets you sneak peeks at future videos, as well as bonus content and access to my supporter-only Discord server, where you can hang out and team build with other community members. You also see your name at the end of all my videos, like all these lovely people. Special thanks to my most boosted supporters, Avatar67 and Club, for their generous pledges. Another way to support me is to check out all the videos in the playlist on screen right now. I know you'll find something in there that you'll enjoy. I also have a second channel where I talk about the current VGC metagame trends, and a Twitch channel where I stream, both of which are in the description. Or you can just tune in my YouTube live streams Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. CST. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.